Sub-Zero is one of the most popular characters from the Mortal Kombat franchise, and it all began with a simple pitch. They wanted a blue ninja standing across the screen from a yellow ninja, and one of them would freeze the other before punching their head off. This 1992 video game pitch was simple, precise, and it worked. But that doesn't mean Sub-Zero doesn't have a much more complicated origin in the lore, especially when you consider that Sub-Zero is less a person and more a mantle that's handed down between two brothers who, despite sharing the same ice powers and ninja clan, are nothing alike as people. So let's talk about the two brothers and how they ended up in this mess in the first place, along with who Sub-Zero is and how their legacy is entwined with that title. It's going to be a good one, so let's get into it. The original timeline, the 2D/3D era, Mortal Kombat, 1992, Bi-Han. The first Sub-Zero we meet is Bi-Han, the elder brother. He enters Shang Tsung's tournament as this elite Lin Kuei assassin and is basically the nonchalant king. He has no connection to or care in the world about heroism or the Earthrealm's survival. He's short, cold, and it makes sense why he's like that. He's there to do a job and be done with it. And the game makes that plenty evident right off the bat. They make sure that we know the only thing Bi-Han cares about is what's in his contract. Now, he doesn't end up finishing the job he was so focused on because Scorpion kills him during the tournament. And that's what makes Sub-Zero so interesting as a character, because when we think of the ice-cold ninja, we usually picture a hero, a valuable ally. But the very first Sub-Zero we ever met, he dies without doing anything even remotely heroic. Bi-Han was basically the trial run that established the costume, the powers, and the visual that made all the fans immediately recognize him at a glance. But the one who made the character memorable to everyone is none other than Kuai Liang, who basically did all the emotional heavy lifting after the death of his brother.
Don't bother.
Mortal Kombat Mythologies, Sub-Zero, 1997, the Bi-Han prequel. Before we talk about the Sub-Zero we do know, Kuai Liang, let's talk about Bi-Han for a second, because the only way we get to really learn about him is through this strange spin-off game. This one actually takes place before the first Mortal Kombat game, and in it, Bi-Han is on a mission assigned by Quan Chi, the sorcerer. He has to go steal a map of elements that would reveal the location of Shinnok's amulet. Why does this amulet matter? Well, according to the story, this amulet is what helped Shinnok escape his imprisonment in Netherrealm. And so, Bi-Han basically goes searching for elemental temples, each guarded by a Lin Kuei-aligned deity, and the underworld. It's a strange game, and the one-on-one fights are replaced with side-scrolling platforming, which isn't necessarily Mortal Kombat's forte, so it's a little old and a little janky, but it does flesh out the lore and the character of Sub-Zero as a whole. Much like the original game, Bi-Han is also very professional here. He doesn't care about anything unrelated to his mission, and while on this mission, he kills members of the Shirai Ryu, which is the direct trigger for Scorpion's vendetta against him. He eventually gets the amulet and hands it over to Quan Chi without realizing what he's just done. In Bi-Han's eyes, he just finished the job he was hired for, everything else was collateral. There's no reckoning moment for Bi-Han where it sinks in what he just did and how much trouble it's going to cause, and we gotta say we love the consistency because that's exactly who he is in the original Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat 2, 1993. Kuai Liang takes the mantle. That said, before we got Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero, we got the second Mortal Kombat game. And here, we see Kuai Liang entering the second tournament, wearing his brother's uniform and taking on the codename Sub-Zero himself. It's both a tribute and an operational cover because Kuai Liang could not let anyone from the Lin Kuei know that the operative had changed. The only thing that was different between the two was that Kuai Liang had a scar over his right eye that was only visible to those searching for it. Now, when he enters the tournament, he makes it clear to us that his main motivation for joining is to complete his brother's unfinished mission. But by this point, the larger context is already changing. You see, the first tournament happened because Shang Tsung was harvesting souls for Shao Kahn. But now, the second was happening because Shao Kahn wanted to merge both Earthrealm and Outworld by force. And as Kuai Liang joined the second tournament and learned about the context that they conveniently didn't give him before, he started to realize that what the Lin Kuei had sent him into was more than just contract work. Because, hello, if Shao Kahn wins, who's going to pay the Lin Kuei? If you played through Sub-Zero's Mortal Kombat 2 arcade ladder, you'll see that Kuai Liang actually spared the life of an opponent. And when he does so, Scorpion realizes that this isn't the man he's after. And guess what else? Bi-Han is resurrected from the dead. He's now Noob Saibot, a dark wraith from the Netherrealm who's stripped of his humanity, not that there was a lot to begin with, but he becomes a major antagonist. Mortal Kombat 2 is actually where we learn about Noob Saibot's existence. He was a hidden non-playable character actually, but we didn't learn that he was Bi-Han until 2004 in Mortal Kombat Deception. So even though you know now who he is straight off the bat, back in the day we had no idea who this mysterious ninja was until a decade later. In fact, even his name screams secret character because Noob Saibot is Tobias Boone backwards, which is actually the last names of the creators of Mortal Kombat. So for over a decade, Noob Saibot was just a fun Easter egg until he turned out to have some staggering lore relevance as a character we were already familiar with. Mortal Kombat 3/Ultimate MK3/Trilogy Defection. In the third game from the original timeline, the Lin Kuei decide that their trained assassins aren't doing as good a job as they wanted, so of course they turn them into cybernetic killing machines that will 100% get the job done. Because of course, a robot will never defect or question orders. This cyber initiative was, for better or for worse, the Lin Kuei's solution to the humanity of their warriors. Eventually, they offered this process to Kuai Liang, and he obviously refused. He defects, and the clan brands him a traitor. You know the saying, snitches get stitches? Well, the Lin Kuei wanted to make sure Kuai Liang wouldn't even be alive to need stitches, so they sent two cybernetic assassins, Sector and Cyrax, after him. Sector was a cyborg who was loyal to the Lin Kuei, but Cyrax was another assassin like Kuai Liang who was basically forced to go through this process. He eventually turns over a new leaf, but that's a wonderful story in its own right. But for now, Kuai Liang is being hunted by his own organization. Kuai Liang rejects the philosophy and the Lin Kuei as a whole. He joins the Earthrealm's defenders and starts fighting against Shao Kahn's forces. For the first time in the franchise, we finally see Sub-Zero entangled in this central conflict.
Wins.
MK4 through Armageddon, the Grandmaster arc. When the fourth game came out, we were already in the 3D era of Mortal Kombat, and so we got to see Kuai Liang work towards something far more complicated than any of us expected in full 3D. So basically, for years, Kuai Liang worked by himself and did his best to stay away from the cyborg enforcers of the Lin Kuei. But he knew this cat-and-mouse game would never end, so instead, he returns to Lin Kuei to challenge Sector. He defeats the cyborg in combat and ends up becoming the Lin Kuei's Grandmaster. From there, he begins to transform the Lin Kuei from an assassination group into Earthrealm's protectors. He disbanded the Cyber Initiative, returned the agency to the members, and basically reformed the whole group. It was painstaking work, and this mostly happened in the background of the lore. It ain't much, but it's honest work, and it goes to show just how strong Kuai Liang's character is. He could have defected or joined a new group, and that would have been it, but no. He knew the evil of the Lin Kuei would persist if he didn't do anything to change or stop it. So he went out, kicked Sector's butt, became the Grandmaster, and started bringing positive changes to the organization. This whole Grandmaster arc plays out across Deadly Alliance, Deception, and Armageddon, and if you follow Sub-Zero through those games closely, you'll see his resilience. The Netherrealm Reboot Timeline. MK9, MKX, MK11. Mortal Kombat 2011. Full reintroduction and the retcon that changes everything. Now let's talk about the 2011 Mortal Kombat reboot. This reboot was developed by Netherrealm Studios after the dissolution of Midway in 2009, and when the new studio came into play, they brought some changes. They reset the timeline to the first tournament and basically played the original storyline beat for beat, but with one crucial change that we already mentioned. Mortal Kombat 9 could have just rehashed the same story from the original Mortal Kombat, but that would have been too easy. Instead, MK9 plays a longer game where we learn more about Quan Chi and his evil plan. Here, we find out that Quan Chi massacred the Shirai Ryu. Like, he was the one who ordered the massacre in the first place, then he framed the Lin Kuei for it. And Scorpion's entire vendetta, which drove him to kill Bi-Han in the first place, was effectively built on a lie. Why? Because Quan Chi wanted Scorpion's soul, and this was the best way to get it. Quan Chi played both clans against one another and harvested as they fell out. This is the most dramatic revelation in the franchise because now we have a new layer of manipulation in an already iconic rivalry. After Bi-Han dies, Kuai Liang takes the Sub-Zero mantle once more, but the Cyber Initiative gets him. He couldn't outrun the Lin Kuei and was forcibly turned into Cyber Sub-Zero. Luckily, he retains fragments of his memories, which allow him to fight alongside Raiden's coalition, and then, down the line, he's eventually restored to his human form when the cybernetic programming is removed. But this wasn't an easy task. Kuai Liang basically had to forcibly take his humanity back after being stripped of it. Mortal Kombat X 2015. Grandmaster, Alliance, Fracture. MK9 ends with a literal catastrophe, but when we pick up MKX, we see that in the 10 years that have passed, Kuai Liang has grown into the Grandmaster of the Lin Kuei that he's rebuilt himself. Not only that, he also brought the Lin Kuei and Shirai Ryu clans together, basically breaking the cycle that Quan Chi started. And now, the two clans and their leaders are working together to protect Earthrealm. Both knew that Quan Chi was the main culprit behind their friction, and with him out of the way, their relationship becomes more of a habitual thing. I'm not saying the two clans are suddenly best friends, but I am saying they're a lot more tolerant towards one another and just do their best to make sure the Earthrealm doesn't burn. But of course, Quan Chi returns, and the alliance between the two clans fractures. This breakup between the clans is treated with a lot of seriousness. Neither clan leader blames the other. They both recognize that they were just pawns in the hands of Quan Chi, and now, when they're leaving each other's sides, they do so knowing full well what the consequences will be. Mortal Kombat 11 2019. Past meets present. In the 11th game, we're introduced to Kronika. She is the keeper of time and the mother of the two elder gods, Shinnok and Cetrion. She's got a plan that doesn't bode well for the heroes of Earthrealm because she wants to merge the timelines, basically reshaping the Mortal Kombat cosmos we know into her preferred design. The past and present versions of characters are pulled into the same timeline. Young, arrogant movie star Johnny Cage gets to meet with older military veteran Johnny Cage, but for Sub-Zero, that doesn't mean he gets to meet his younger self. Instead, he meets with Bi-Han once again. The original Sub-Zero returns, this time as Kronika's henchman. Kuai Liang, on the other hand, is a hero of Earthrealm fighting against Kronika. These two brothers are so vastly different that they basically disown one another. Now, Kuai Liang joins hands with Hanzo Hasashi, Scorpion himself, in order to defeat Cyrax. But once he learned what went down with Cyrax, he convinces the cyborg to join them. This results in Cyrax sacrificing himself to destroy Sector's cyber factory. Now, if you play Sub-Zero in arcade mode, you'll see Kuai Liang's ending, where he eventually defeats Kronika and attains her power over time. In this non-canonical ending, he uses that to sift through Bi-Han's history and make sure that his brother never goes down the dark path in the first place. With this new change, Bi-Han and Kuai Liang end up becoming the joint Grandmasters of the reformed Lin Kuei, working hand in hand to protect Earthrealm. Of course, this is non-canonical, as in story mode, it's Liu Kang that takes down Kronika and changes history to his liking, but hey, at least we get some justice for our favorite cold-blooded ninja. Mortal Kombat 1 2023. The New Era. In his Fire God form, Liu Kang defeats Kronika, and once he does, he gains the ability to control time. Using these newly gained powers, he rebuilds the world from scratch and deliberately resets everything we know about the characters and whatever expectations we had from them. In this alternate timeline, Bi-Han is once again Sub-Zero, the colder, older brother. He's loyal to a fault with no interest in the redemption arc that we've been following for Kuai Liang. That doesn't mean that Bi-Han is a villain, though. He's not. He's just an assassin under the old Lin Kuei. Now, that doesn't mean that Kuai Liang doesn't exist in this timeline either. He does, but he's now using the codename Scorpion. Yup, the heroic brother basically took their greatest rival's name. Unlike previous eras, where Kuai Liang was a follower of the Lin Kuei, this Kuai Liang is all about caring for his brother. With this change in codename, there's also a change in power, because now Kuai Liang is a pyromancer and not a cryomancer. When he finds out about Bi-Han's betrayal, he defects from the Lin Kuei and becomes the founder of the Shirai Ryu. And the iconic rivalry becomes a brotherly rivalry. When asked, Dominic Ciancolo, the story director for this game, said, "One thing we were looking at is how do we refresh this relationship that everybody knows? And how do we amp up the drama between the two characters? And so, the notion of Scorpion and Sub-Zero being brothers, which I think goes way back in the day, that was somebody, even co-creator John Tobias's idea early on. It was a way of sort of wrapping up the tension, and the decision of, do we continue with Hanzo and make it a blood brother or an adopted brother, or blood brother Kuai Liang? He also noted that fans should see this version of Mortal Kombat as a jumping off point for this new universe instead of holding on to the familiar destinations. He implied that the Sub-Zero/Scorpion rivalry that we've gotten used to might happen down the line, but they have nothing confirmed as of yet. And that makes sense, because Netherrealm Studios constructed this universe deliberately. They wanted to show us another possibility where our hero wants to make sure everything goes right. But even when he can control time and the universe, he can't control the people in the universe. So eventually, something will go wrong. The only question is how. Comics. Malibu Comics, Blood and Thunder / Battle Wave, 1994 to 95. When you've got a game as popular as Mortal Kombat, there's no way you don't make a couple comics to expand the lore on fan-favorite characters. It was an untapped market and arguably the best way to garner more fans for the games. Malibu Comics saw this gap and ended up releasing several Mortal Kombat miniseries. These miniseries were more character-focused and lore-deep than your usual game-to-comic translations. So, if you want to learn more about your favorite characters, you should 100% check them out. Now, out of all the characters, Bi-Han is heavily featured in the comics because the creators knew that Bi-Han was a well-loved character, but the games barely explored him and his life before the tournaments. So, that's what this comic series is for. The most significant Sub-Zero happens in the 4th issue of Blood and Thunder. Here, we get a direct confrontation between Scorpion and Sub-Zero that had us extremely hyped. I don't want to spoil anything, but let me tell you, Malibu Comics did a wonderful job adapting the character from the game into the comic. We start off with Sub-Zero and Raiden hanging together before Sub-Zero's spidey senses tingle. And what does he find? Scorpion, of course. The two ninjas immediately start fighting, and Sub-Zero basically jump kicks Scorpion to bits while ignoring Hydro, who Scorpion was beating. Classic Sub-Zero. If this isn't ruthless, then we don't know what is. And that's why we say the comics really understand Bi-Han's character. Sometimes when characters get adopted across media, there are some changes that inevitably happen, depending on what the media is. But Malibu Comics left Bi-Han Sub-Zero exactly the way he was in the games. So even if they don't say it out loud, you can tell that the Malibu Comics run was all about Bi-Han. DC Comics, Mortal Kombat X tie-in, 2015. Eventually, we got DC's digital-first MKX comics. These were the connective tissue between the 2011 game and the Mortal Kombat X game. They gave us 36 issues, and in them, we learned about the Lin Kuei's journey between the two games. We know that in the 2011 game, the Lin Kuei spent the whole time trying to push for that cyber initiative, right? But that failed. And then, in Mortal Kombat X, when we come back, we learn that Kuai Liang is their leader making reforms, including the new budding alliance between the Lin Kuei and Shirai Ryu. The games don't really explore the political side of these kinds of reforms and alliances, but the comics do. So, if you want to experience this deeper understanding of how the Lin Kuei and Kuai Liang function, then you should definitely check these books out. DC KO Boss Battle Number 1, February 2026, into the DC Universe. Very recently, just a couple of months ago time of recording, we got the first issue of DC KO Boss Battle. This is a comic book run where Sub-Zero is placed within the DC Universe as part of a major ongoing storyline event. In the DC Universe, there's this huge cosmic tournament. The DC heroes are competing for the title of King Omega so that they can stop Darkseid's conquest of reality. As the heroes keep on winning, and the villains want none of that, the World Forger opens a rift to other realities to pull in external champions. And one of those champions, brought in from a different world, is none other than our boy Sub-Zero. He fights with Plastic Man and Black Lightning before Scorpion joins the confrontation as well. As the heroes and villains fight, the rift between the two realities destabilizes and collapses into each other, and it's completely unhinged. We don't have the words to describe just how amazing and out there this comic is. I mean, Sub-Zero has a little bit of background in the DC universe thanks to the Injustice video game series, but let's be honest, I wasn't ever expecting a fight between Plastic Man and Sub-Zero on page. It's like a collision between two of my favorite fictional worlds, and in the strangest way possible. I mean, Plastic Man has the powers of Mr. Fantastic, but with Deadpool's mindset, and he's funny in a goofy way, but then you've got Sub-Zero, one of the most stoic characters I can think of off the top of my head. And not just that, but we also have the Joker fighting with Annabelle, Batgirl facing off against Vampirella, Lex Luthor fighting Samantha Strong, and of course, Superman facing off against Homelander. The writer, Jeremy Adams, who has previously worked on MK projects, has said that he was really excited to bring Netherrealm into the DC Comics, and with this one crossover, new gates have been opened for Mortal Kombat characters, but specifically for Sub-Zero and Scorpion. Film, TV, and animation. Mortal Kombat 1995. Francois Petit. The 1995 Mortal Kombat film had an amazing soundtrack, but Sub-Zero basically functioned as one of Shang Tsung's henchmen. No backstory, no nothing. He's just a villainous blue ninja, and he gets killed off right away, which has been a point of contention for many long-term fans. And can't say we blame them. Imagine falling in love with a character, seeing them extensively in the comic books that came out at the time, and then, in the movie, the character barely gets any screen time before getting killed off completely. If you watch the film, you'll notice that Sub-Zero and his past aren't priorities at all. The story mostly focuses on Johnny Cage, Sonya Blade, and Liu Kang and their journeys, so it's totally valid if fans felt that Sub-Zero was little more than set dressing in this one. Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm, 1996. Then we got this animated series in 1996, and finally, we got Kuai Liang's version of Sub-Zero. This series specifically shows us his reformed self, with his whole Defection plotline mentioned in the background. The show was mostly aimed at younger fans, so it makes sense that they didn't delve into most of the plot. Instead, Sub-Zero was a reformed bad guy who was now one of the good guys. But hey, we gotta give credit where it's due. This was the first time we got to see him playing hero right off the bat. The writing leaves much to be desired, but come on, it's a 90s Mortal Kombat cartoon. We're lucky we got this thing at all. Mortal Kombat Conquest, 1998 to 99. This live-action series is set in ancient Earthrealm long before the games, but still, it returns to Sub-Zero's Lin Kuei identity often in the first season. This show was meant for everyone, not just the fans, so they tried to keep everything light and digestible while also covering a lot of Mortal Kombat lore. As for Sub-Zero specifically, this show gave us the Lin Kuei as an institution and showed us how it functions, which changed the way we looked at the characters. I mean, we had played the game, so we already had an idea, but it was just different seeing it play out in live action, even if it was a little cheap. And whatever small changes and creative liberties they took along the way to better adapt the media, it feels like they made the right decisions. Mortal Kombat Legends: Scorpion's Revenge. Warner Bros. Gave us two jewels to hold on to when it came to the Mortal Kombat universe. This one and the live-action movie that came out 1 year later. In the film, Bi-Han is basically the main antagonist. We see his role in the Shirai Ryu massacre in detail. We also learn about how he killed off Hanzo Hasashi and was then killed by Scorpion in return down the line. The film takes time to show Hasashi as a father and a leader before he's killed off and becomes Scorpion, so we had time to feel the loss and grieve for his character. This version of Bi-Han is also very lore accurate. His personal detachment from his actions is unsettling. If you haven't seen this movie, you should definitely check it out. Mortal Kombat Legends: Battle of the Realms, 2021. The second Legends film continues the Scorpion's Revenge continuity because now we've reached the point where Shao Kahn is in full invasion mode. Kuai Liang is now a member of the Earthrealm Coalition, but that's about it. He doesn't get dedicated time to establish himself, but hey, we get to see heroic Sub-Zero again, and we know how he established the relationship between him and the main characters. I really like this movie more than the others because finally we see Sub-Zero as Sub-Zero the hero, not Sub-Zero, the brother of Bi-Han, or Sub-Zero, the defected Lin Kuei member. Mortal Kombat Legends: Snowblind, 2022. With Snowblind, the trilogy is completed, and our boy Sub-Zero gets a thematically complete run throughout all three films. The third film takes place in the future, where Earthrealm has fallen and Shao Kahn is the big bad. His enforcers are Kano and his Black Dragon cartel, who our main lead, Kuai Liang, has to fight again. But wait, Kuai Liang was blinded in the last battle and has already retired. That's when Kenshi, a young blind telekinetic ninja, finds him and brings him into the conflict. And let's be real, that's a really smart idea if you're going against Shao Kahn. Kuai Liang is a weapon that walked away from the Lin Kuei. He knew what was wrong and what was right, and he fought for the good guys. But he was defeated and then stepped back. However, the world was never going to give him the peace he desired, and that's part of why we love this arc so much. It feels realistic when we see Liang deal with the notion of returning to the world that he left behind. And now, because he's blinded, he's working at an even greater disadvantage. So, when boiled down to its core, Snowblind is a story about the choice of defending something even when there's nothing left. Mortal Kombat 2021. Joe Taslim as Bi-Han. The 2021 Mortal Kombat film had some issues, but overall we really enjoyed it, if for no other reason than because of how they treated Sub-Zero. In this film, Sub-Zero is basically the villain, shaped by the Lin Kuei with no redeeming qualities. In the first few moments of the film, he kills Hanzo and his family, and that's where the horrors of the character begin. We learn that there was a rivalry between Bi-Han and Hisashi throughout the movie, and there's no mention of Quan Chi. Both the actors, Joe Taslim and Hiroyuki Sanada, carried the movie on their backs as they went through the motions of the rivalry developing and its aftermath. There's no clear villain in this story since both of them are in the wrong, and then the movie ends with Bi-Han's defeat and his implied turning into Noob Saibot. We watch this happen, and it feels justified, and that's the magic of Taslim's acting chops. Mortal Kombat 2, 2026. Joe Taslim returns as Noob Saibot. The sequel to the 2021 Mortal Kombat film came out on May 8th with Simon McQuoid as the director and Jeremy Slater as writer. Both Joe Taslim and Hiroyuki Sanada returned as their characters, along with Carl Urban as Johnny Cage and Adeline Rudolph as Kitana. However, now that Bi-Han has fallen, Taslim's going to be playing Noob Saibot, and we're hoping to see Kuai Liang's version of Sub-Zero in the film because, time of recording, it's still 2 days away from coming out. Producer Todd Garner and the MK filmmaking teams have discussed that there is the possibility of individual focused character films in the future with a Bi-Han/Sub-Zero origin film, but whether those movies come out or not completely depends on the performance of Mortal Kombat 2. So go check it out if it's nearby theater and let us know what you thought in the comments down below. Sadly though, that brings us to the end of the 30-year saga of Sub-Zero. He started out as a generic ninja that people picked because they liked the color, but eventually he became such a fan favorite that the writers and creators had to deep dive into his character and give him lore that made him a complex, layered character. Since the first time Kuai Liang picked up his brother's uniform, the series has been asking us the same question. Does the identity a person inherits determine who they become, or does the person who chooses the identity decide who they're going to be? And if you look at the different continuities, each would give you a different answer because truly, there's no answer to this question. But we're allowed to have our opinions. And speaking of, who's your favorite Sub-Zero, Bi-Han or Kuai Liang? Let us know in the comments section down below, and we'll see you guys in our next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you want to see more Mortal Kombat videos from us, because that's the best way to let us know. That said, we do have a whole series on our channel that might be of interest to you in that regards, but we'll leave you to it for now. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and we'll see ya in the next one.